My name is Bill Dominick. I'm on the board of directors for the Monson Historical Society. I have been for about the last 40 years. We are just about ready to enter the Jacob Thompson House for our tour. The Jacob Thompson House was built in 1812 by a man from Holland, Mass, for a man from Holland, Mass, Jacob Thompson, who was a lawyer and also a farmer. This was originally a 100-acre farm. He owned all the property on both sides of the street. He married a woman from Monson, Hadassah Stone, and they raised 12 children in this house. In 1842, the town was looking for a place to start a cemetery, preferably on Main Street. They approached Jacob Thompson, and he sold them the top part of his land to the town in 1842 to start the Hillside Cemetery. In 1892, the only remaining member of the family living here was Jacob Thompson's oldest son, Addison, who was quite elderly at the time, and he was approached by the town to buy the rest of the property and the house. So in 1892, the town purchased the rest of the property and continued to expand the cemetery. Originally, it was used for the home for the cemetery caretaker until about 1960, when it was then started to rent it out to different individuals. About 30 years ago, the Monson Historical Society was approached by the town because they no longer wanted to be in charge of renting this or responsible for it, so they wanted to know if the Historical Society would be interested in it, which we were. So the town agreed to that, and we've had the house for probably the last 30 years, which we have been restoring little by little over time. I would say it's probably now is about 90 to 100% restored. So I guess we're going to enter the house now and start our tour. Our annual Christmas open house is going to be on December 12th from 1 to 5. So we hope everyone that's interested in the history of Monson and history is able to attend. It should be an interesting afternoon. As you enter the house, you're first coming into what we're calling the kitchen, which is set up as a typical late early 1900s kitchen. The back part of the house, we are not exactly sure how it was configured, exactly what the room arrangement was. It's been altered over the years. This is just a depiction of how we think it should look. The front part, when we go to the front part of the house, you'll see an all original 4 rooms, hallway, front parlor, office, and 2 upstairs bedrooms. So I guess we'll walk now into what we call the dining room. We've now stepped into the room that we're using as a dining room. We think this may have originally been the kitchen to the house. We think there would have been a central cooking fireplace back here somewhere. But like I mentioned before, the back part of the house has been altered and we're not exactly sure of the configuration. So this is depicted as the dining room. We have some very early pieces of furniture in here. The maple highboy, the Queen Anne table, a set of Haviland china in the china cabinet that belonged to Dr. Fuller, who was a well-known Civil War surgeon from Monson. We have an early high chair in the corner, or youth chair, and over the years the house has been the inside has been done with historic colors that have been chosen by the members of our society. We're now in the room that we call the birthing room, which was very common in a house of this period, to have a room off the kitchen where a mother who was expecting might have her child, or where a sick child might be watched over. Very common at this period of time. We have an antique mushroom top rope bed here in the original red paint. The corner cupboard is full of brown transferware china, a very early piece called a wagon seat, which would have been taken out of, this was a farm, which would have been taken out of the house and put on the back of a buckboard or a buggy for children to sit on, a very early candle stand, and a Boston rocker in the corner. As I mentioned earlier, Jacob Thompson was a lawyer and also a farmer. And this would have been his law office. The painting above the mantle is of a man from Monson named Cyrus Holmes, he was a Monson industrialist. He was a client of Jacob Thompson's. We have an early tall case clock in the corner from the Federal period. There is a candle stand here, a tilt-top candle stand, which would have been used to shield yourself from the heat of the fireplace if you were too close to it, or it could have been put down to put a candlestick on or to get it out of the way. The table in the center is a Federal game table with a chess set on it. The secretary on the wall over here is a piece that belonged to Dr. Fuller, who I had mentioned earlier was a Civil War surgeon who lived in Monson here. There's a cherry swing leg table on the wall over here with a collection of wine glasses and a wine decanter. There's a Sheraton sofa on the front wall over here and a Sheraton chair that match. We were advised by a man who used to be the curator of architecture from Sturbridge Village, John Curtis, about what we should do for window treatments, and this is what was recommended to us, and one of our members took it on herself to obtain these curtains for us, and so they've been recently put up. We've now entered the front parlor of the Jacob Thompson House, which was recently redone with original period wallpaper in honor of our National Register designation. Also, the window treatments in this room have been recently redone. Some of the interesting things in here are the melodeon in the corner over here, which was a very popular instrument at this period of time. It's made of rosewood. We have the mahogany game table between the windows, a mirror back Victorian sofa, a walnut tea table, and many other objects would have been found in a Victorian parlor. Unfortunately, we do not have any pieces that belong to the original family that lived here, the Thompson family. All the pieces that you have seen in the house and that you will see in the house are pieces that have been loaned to the Historical Society by different people. There are a few things that have been donated to the Historical Society, but we do not have anything that is original to the house. Everything in here would have been found in a house of this period from this period of time. They owned this house from 1812 until 1892. So anything that's in here could have belonged to that family. We've now entered the front hall of the Jacob Thompson House, which is, like I mentioned before, the front part of the house is all original. The floors, the woodwork, even the stenciling on the walls is a copy of the original that was here. Many years ago, when we were doing restoration work on the house, about 10 layers of wallpaper were stripped off this hallway, and underneath there was enough of the original stenciling on the walls, so we were able to have it copied by a woman who did work for Sturbridge Village. We think originally, we're not sure, but it could possibly have been done by Rufus Porter, who was an itinerant artist who traveled around this part of the country and did wall stenciling for private individuals. If you want to take note of the beautiful front door with the fan light above, In the corner is a pine candle stand, which were very common in a house of this period, just to have a pair of candlesticks or a single candle stand on. We have a Sheraton cherry chest of drawers on this side of on the north side of the hall, flanked by a Hitchcock chair, a Federal two-part mirror over the chest, original staircase, which is called a good morning staircase, because at the top of the stairs there's a step up to the hall and to the room on the other side. And that was referred to as a good morning staircase because you'd meet in the morning on the steps and greet each other. This is the room that we consider to be the master bedroom. We also call this the Norcross bedroom because the tall post bed and the 6-drawer chest were possessions of Joel Norcross, who was Emily Dickinson's grandfather. They were donated to us several years ago. Also in the corner here, we have a flax wheel, a hooded cradle, and a very interesting piece over here is the Mammy's bench. They were not found very often in this part of the country. They were mostly from the south. It was for a woman to sit on and rock her baby, and then this could be taken off if someone else wanted to sit down, but this little removable gate is kind of interesting. Like I said, they were not too common around this part of the country, mostly in the south. This is a yarn winder, what they would wind their yarn on after it was spun. We're now in the children's bedroom, or one of the children's bedrooms. Having been 12 children in this house, there would have been trundle beds and probably 3 in a bed, and they were probably sleeping all over the place. But some of the interesting things in this room are this is another original rope bed. There's a Federal period 4-drawer chest of drawers. The baby carriage is over here is quite interesting. It's probably about 1860. And the little potty chair right here is quite interesting, very early. And it would have originally had a little bar that went across here so the child wouldn't fall out. An early blue woven coverlet on the bed. And of course, these rooms all had fireplaces, and this is called a Rumford fireplace because it's so shallow, and that was to get more heat into the room. It must have been kind of dangerous, but it really allowed a lot more heat being that shallow. We're now standing in the back part of the attic at the Jacob Thompson House, and we have a very interesting piece over here. It is an 1890 mail cart. At one time, there was a train station located on Washington Street, and this cart would be brought down from the post office to pick up the mail off the train. It would be loaded in the cart and then brought up to the post office. This was donated by a local auctioneer in town many years ago, and as I think I mentioned earlier, it's from about 1890. We're now in the hired man's bedroom. As I had mentioned earlier, this was a 100-acre farm, so there would have been at least one or more hired hands working here, and they would have had to have a bedroom for them, and this bedroom is located at the back of the attic. There probably would have been a stairway coming up from the kitchen, which is not there now, up to this room, and this is where the hired hand would have stayed. There's a small little wood stove in the corner here, which would have been used to keep him warm. Another original rope bed, a 4-drawer grain-painted Sheraton chest, and his wash stand with his bowl and pitcher and pot. And it was not what you'd call a luxurious room at all. It had the bare necessities.